weekend is going down on UFC Fight Pass. UFC is back in London. Now, if we're looking at the way that this compares and stacks up against the last couple of fight cards that went down in London, I mean, 2016 you had the famous Bisping versus Silva fight, which I was definitely one of the best fights of the entire year. And then last year, I believe it was, we had Brad Pickett retire. I remember that. I can't remember exactly who headlined it, but I believe it was better than Werdum versus Volkov. Now, I'll take it for what it is, because a lot of the recent cards, which haven't been the most exciting with huge names, have actually been really exciting when it came down to the crunch time. But this weekend, we are going to see Fabricio Werdum versus Volkov in the main event. Fabricio Werdum trying to push forward to make himself another #1 contender, because right now that division is on hold, as we have Stipe Miocic, who took the belt away from Fabricio Werdum. He's tied up right now on the Ultimate Fighter and going to be fighting on International Fight Week, which really isn't that far away. So a win, if Werdum can get the win this weekend, he's right there. Especially, I would love to see DC versus Werdum. Imagine that. Imagine if DC beats Stipe and we see Werdum versus DC for the heavyweight title. Imagine how crazy that would be. That's that could happen. Right now, Fabricio Werdum is sitting at third in that division, and he's on a couple fight win streak. He's got the last 2 wins over Walt Harris and Marcin Tybura, and win over Volkov 3 fights in a row. I mean, if you're looking at Werdum, I mean, this is a guy who's beat some of the best in the world on his way up to getting that title and then quickly losing it. I mean, UFC 203 and the Travis Brownie jumps, runs, kicks him in the face. Gotta love Fabricio Werdum, what he brings to the table. He had all this beef with Colby Covington recently, and he's just such a fun guy. He has recently been taking like classes because he's been using gay slurs and stuff like that. So his time's been definitely filled up, and his name has been talked about pretty a lot in the last couple of months here in the MMA community. So a win here could definitely post him as the #1 contender for next in line after Stipe versus DC. But let's not overlook Volkov. I mean, Volkov, he's ranked 8th currently, 29-6 record. He's coming off a win over Stefan Struve. He beat Roy Nelson. He beat Tim Johnson. He's on a 3-fight win streak so far in the UFC. I mean, he's in his last 5 fights, he's won all 5. 29 years old. Fabricio Werdum, on the other hand, his last 5 fights, he's 3-2. 3 wins, 2 losses. Still training King's MMA. 67% of people are actually going with Fabricio Werdum early on Tapology, which means 33% are going for Volkov, and a good majority of that 33% are actually going with Volkov by TKO. A good majority of people who are going for Werdum are going for submission, obviously. And if we're looking at Volkov's last 5 fights, 3 of them have been finishes and 2 have been decisions. I mean, he's no joke. He definitely deserves a shot here at one of the top guys in the division. Especially, he was the champion moving over to the UFC, and now he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Not many guys can get past Fabricio Werdum. The last 2 people to beat Fabricio Werdum has been Alistair Overeem and Stipe Miocic. But both those losses have come within the last 2 years. That's the thing. Does Alexander Volkov have what it takes to beat Fabricio Werdum? And I might get people that argue with me saying that, whenever Volkov isn't going to be able to launch Werdum into the title shot. I have to argue back, though. I think if he's able to get it done, especially in fashion, finish this kid, put on a show, he's right there, man. And you got International Fight Week just weeks away, sitting there. So if Fabricio Werdum gets it done, we'll see what he does on the mic. My quick pick, I'm going for Fabricio Werdum, round 2 submission. In our co-main event, we have Juan Blachowicz going up against Jimmy Manuwa. Now, Jimmy Manuwa has been trying his best to get to the top, get that title shot, and he always comes so close. Recently came very close, and then gets knocked out. And he gets knocked out to Volkan Oezdemir, which really surprised a lot of people. I had Jimmy Manuwa winning in that fight, and we all know what happened next for Volkan. He gets the title shot and he blows it. But Juan Blachowicz, out of his last 5 fights, he's 3-2, won 3, lost 2. But he's currently on a 2-fight winning streak right now. Jimmy Manuwa, his last 5 fights, he's 3-2, won 3, lost 2. He's on a 1-fight losing streak. His last loss being, obviously, to Volkov. Before that, though, he had so much momentum building up behind him, beating OSP via KO. Then beating Corey Anderson via KO. That fight with Volkov, man, that could have went either way. Volkov was able to get the best of Jimmy Manuwa, and that was 7 months ago. So hopefully, Jimmy Manuwa has had enough time to recover, especially from a knockout like he had. Like, he suffered a pretty brutal knockout in the clinch position. And it seems like 73% of you guys are going with Manuwa to win by TKO or KO, and 27% are going with Juan Blachowicz. Juan Blachowicz, his last 2 fights haven't been that bad. I mean, a win over Jared Cannonier 2 months ago. And then before that, win over Devin Clark via rear naked choke just 4 months ago. Both these guys are a little older, in their late 30s. This is a pretty even matchup here. I'm interested to see what the odds are when the odds come out. I do not see any odds posted just yet, but I would expect Jimmy Manuwa to be the favorite here and Juan Blachowicz, but not by much. I wouldn't expect it to be by much. Something inside me saying to go for Juan Blachowicz on this one, but I'm going to go with Jimmy Manuwa. First round TKO. I mean, the last couple of losses for Juan Blachowicz have come by decision, but will Jimmy Manuwa make it to the 3rd round? I think he'll try to get it done early, if anything. This is definitely a pretty even matchup. Then we have Tom Duquesnoy going up against Terrion Ware. Duquesnoy coming off a loss, but before that, man, I mean, he's got a record of 15-2. His last loss being to Cody Stamann, which his opponent has lost to as well. I see people online talking about jobbers, and if you guys never heard the term jobber, it's a fighter that's in an organization like Bellator or the UFC or whatever, and they're not in there to be the featured champion, but they're in there to kind of be a stepping stone, not even a gatekeeper, just a stepping stone. I mean, a gatekeeper obviously is a ranked fighter, but a jobber is an unranked fighter that is hot and cold, hot and cold. A lot of people are calling Terrion Ware a jobber here, and I don't think that's fair. I think Terrion Ware does have a future, but maybe it was a little too early for Terrion Ware to come into the UFC. I don't want any backlash for that. But currently, Terrion Ware is on a 2-fight losing streak to Sean O'Malley and to Cody Stamann. 2 guys who are recently coming off wins, obviously. Recent wins that the UFC, it's seeming they're trying to build. Cody Stamann, I believe he just beat... who'd Cody Stamann just beat? Brian Caraway. And then Sean O'Malley beating Andre Sukum. But before that, man, I mean, Terrion Ware was getting wins over ACB or CXF or the RFA, wherever he was fighting. He was able to get the job done. I mean, he has got a 17-6 record. He's not that bad of a fighter. Coming in the UFC, he had a 17-4 record. It's a pretty decent record, guys. That's not who I'd consider a jobber. But you can definitely tell this. Both these guys have their back up against the wall, and those are the fights that you should pay close attention to. Both these guys are really trying to make a name for themselves. I've been peeping Tom Duquesnoy, peeping our Instagram page, so big shout out to Tom Duquesnoy being a fan of the show, hopefully, and I hope that whoever wins this fight gets more respect than I've been seeing a lot of the MMA community out there giving both of these guys. I mean, Tom Duquesnoy, I've been seeing a lot of people get behind, trying to build him as a star, but not so much for Terrion Ware, who's had some pretty difficult fights. I mean, Cody Stamann and Sean O'Malley are 2 very tough opponents. I mean, Sean O'Malley with the cardio, I talked about it earlier, but we'll see what both these guys have been working on in the gym. Hopefully, they'll be able to go out there and showcase it to us at home. So, if I'm going for the pick on this one, Duquesnoy, man, his last 5 fights, he's won 4 and lost 1. His last loss is his last fight. And before that, he was finishing fighter after fighter. I mean, his UFC debut, I don't know how many people remember this, but it was less than 12 months ago, and he got a brutal elbow TKO over Patrick William. Then after that, he lost to Cody Stamann in a split decision just 4 months ago. And this is via Tapology, 92% of fight fans are going with Tom Duquesnoy, Fire Kid, to win this one, and a lonely 8% for Terrion Ware. Which keep your eyes on, because if the odds come out, this is a fight that could definitely be a sleeper. This is definitely a sleeper fight. It is on the main card though, but it is also on UFC Fight Pass. My quick pick for this, I'm going with Tom Duquesnoy TKO round 2. That gets us to a welterweight matchup between Leon Edwards and Peter Sabata. My quick pick for this, I'm just going to go with Leon Edwards. So you guys tell me, is this an exciting UFC London card? We're going to have to really wait and see until the fight, until fight night. But for what it is on paper, there's some pretty interesting matchups, but not many big names. So I definitely suggest you guys go out there and do your research. I'll be posting up my quick picks right here on Twitter, Instagram, right here on YouTube. I'll be posting up my quick picks like I do all the time on Instagram and Twitter. So make sure to follow me on both platforms. Let me know what you guys think about this. I mean, it's kind of a weird UFC London card. You don't see really many big London superstars on this card like you would expect. There were a lot of people trying to hype up, saying that Michael Bisping was supposed to be on this card months ago, but then Michael Bisping sent out that tweet saying, if you're gonna buy tickets for UFC London, don't buy them because I'm not on the card. And I'm sure the UFC got pretty pissed off about him making that statement, but lo and behold, he's actually going to be one of the guest fighters that will be appearing there. So if you are in London, and I know we have a big majority of our listeners out there that are out in London, if you are out in London and you can get to the O2 Arena, it's definitely worth your trip. Fan villages should be all set up. Paige Van Zandt is going to be there. Bisping is going to be there. It's always a good time if you go to a live event, but for this one, I'm going to be enjoying sitting at home watching on UFC Fight Pass, unfortunately. But this will really get us geared up for what's in store next on our schedule here for UFC. So after UFC London, which is going down March 17th, and let me give you guys a fight time. I believe the main card's going to be at like 5 o'clock or something crazy like that. It's going to be an early one because it's over in London, so keep that in mind as well, guys, which definitely throws me off, but deserving to everybody out in London, because I know they've had to bear with a lot of late nights over the past couple of months. So I hope that they're happy with this card. I think that UFC could have done a better job matching bigger superstars, but this could be a result of spreading the roster too thin with some of their future cards here. So the next card is going to be UFC 223 at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, going down April 7th. This card is so stacked. I can't wait for this one. And I'm actually going to be there live at the weigh-ins. And hopefully right after, I've just been talking with the MMA holes about this. We're going to be doing a podcast directly after the weigh-ins. So you have that to look forward to, because I know a lot of our listeners here are also listeners over at the MMA holes. But on this card, guys, you have not only do you have Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I'm still going to keep my fingers crossed for that one, that nothing goes wrong, because this is the 4th time they've tried setting this one up, which is why they haven't stripped Conor McGregor, in case anyone isn't familiar, why Conor McGregor is going around as the champ still, and yet they have a title fight coming up. It's because his fight's fallen through 4 times. They don't want to strip their champion to have a championship fight fall through and not have a champion. Well, I guess that would make Tony the champion since he's interim. Also on this card, in the co-main event, you have Rose Namajunas going up against Joanna Jędrzejczyk in the rematch. That is going to be one of the best fights of the year. You also have Marciano versus Qatar, Michael Chiesa versus Showtime Pettis, Ali Quinta against Paul Felder. I'm going to try to get Paul on before that the card goes down. Felice Herrig going up against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Ray Borg versus Marino. Marino, another one who was on the rise and then disappeared after his last loss to the little Pettis. Joe Lozon against Gritzmacher. Gritzmacher from season 22 of Ultimate Fighter. One of my favorites going down to it. He actually looks like one of the Geico cavemen, but it looks like he's got a little clean cut right now. He's going up against Joe Lozon. That's a tough fight. I'd pick Joe Lozon all day there. But if Gritz gets a loss there, might be the last time we see him. Oliver Orban Mercier going up against Evan Dunham. That's going to be a good one. We also have Bruce Leroy going up against Artem Lobov on that card. Beck Rawlings against Ashley Evans Smith. Beck Rawlings, I believe, on like a 5-fight losing streak. I mean, UFC 223 is where it's at. Kyle Bochniak going against Magomedov or Magomedov. Never pronounced that guy's last name. And if you guys saw what Kyle Bochniak brought to the table in his last fight, it's be more than enough to get you excited for the way he's going to start UFC 223 off. After that, guys, we have live on Fox UFC Fight Night, Dustin Poirier going up against Justin Gaethje. Fight of the year written all over it. That's going to be another very exciting card. Let's take a quick look at that. Outside of that main event, we also have Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. Been waiting for that one to come up. Alessandro versus Vittori. This is the guy who just came into the UFC, just recently won a fight, said that he was going to piss all over the octagon and that everybody needs to come after him. Then he was saying, make cunt great again, which I didn't understand. And here he is, a new matchup for him, the last style bender, coming off that recent win at UFC 221 to Rob Wilkinson. And he's back in action in just a couple of weeks here. April 14th, he's made his way onto the main card. Now he's going against Marvin Vettori. Now here's the thing, in his last fight, it was a so-so finish. I'm really excited to see this fight though. Glad the UFC is going to be giving him the platform, but not throwing him too deep into the fire. You have him going against Martin Vettori out of Italy, who's been pretty hot and cold. So I think this is a good fight. I mean, in the UFC, he's won 2, lost 1. See what he brings to the table come April 14th. Also on this card, you have Michelle Waterson against Courtney Casey. This is free on Fox. Tim Burge versus Carlos Jr. Wilson Hayes versus Moraga. My boy Diego Lima back in action. He's going to be going up against Okami. Man, Houston Okami. That should be a fun fight. And then after that, guys, live on FS1, UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Kevin Lee. That's going to be going down April 21st. That's one of the top-ranked guys in that division. Barboza is 4th, Lee in 7th. Also on this card, you have David Brandt against Santos. You have Sterling against Johns. You have Jim Miller against Hooker. You have LaFleur against Garcia. Holy shit. We have a stacked schedule for the UFC. And the event after that, May 12th, UFC 224 live on pay-per-view. Amanda Nunes going up against Raquel Pennington. Also on this card, we have Vitor Belfort against Lyoto Machida. We have Jacare Souza against Kelvin Gass, and that card is still developing. And then June 1st, live on FS1, our boy Jimmy Rivera against Marlon Morales. Also on that card, Lauren Murphy against Sarge Eubanks. I'm trying to get Lauren Murphy on the next podcast. Just spoke with her recently. Valon is going to get Sam Alvey. That could be a complete disaster. Hopefully Valon gets the win, but I'm a big fan of both the guys. That is our lineup for the UFC, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Pure Evil MMA. I am so excited for this weekend. We had a weekend without the UFC, and I just cannot stand that. I literally sat at home wishing there was something to watch on TV that had to do with fighting. And I was not met with a satisfaction. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Pure Evil MMA. I will be launching a new merch today. The link will be down below here on YouTube for teespring.com. Thank you guys so much. Subscribe down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on some of the latest headlines between Conor McGregor signing with Burger King. Bellator 200. Who would you like to see on that card? Out to Cody Nolov as well. He just had his baby boy, him and his girlfriend or his wife. What are your thoughts on Chuck vs. Tito 3? Is Bellator going to go through with this? Dylan Dennis, is he going to be debuting for Bellator 200? See if he won it. What fight are you guys most excited in the future for the UFC or Bellator or any organization? Let me know on Twitter. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Evil_Echo Pure Evil MMA. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And check out all the latest Pure Evil MMA on MyMMAnews.com and all the latest MMA news on MyMMAnews.com. I'm Evil Eddie. Behave yourselves.